Swing and a drive.
Welcome to Red, White, and Blue Jays, the podcast home of Blue Jays Fans UK, a group connecting Blue Jays fans around the UK and beyond, and telling their story. And now, here's the host of Red, White, and Blue Jays, Steve Hunter.
Hi, guys. Welcome to another edition of Red, White, and Blue Jays. Great to have you aboard. And I'm very excited today to welcome Stephen to our pod. It's our second time dipping into mainland Europe. And so, Stephen, thank you so much for finding time to spend with me this morning. Great to catch up with you, my friend. I know we've had a lot of conversations on Twitter over quite a long period of time now, but it's great to actually see you face to face. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. This is pretty exciting.
And I have to say, just from the outset, your English is impeccable.
That's because I'm Canadian.
Okay. Oh, I do. No. See, that's interesting because there's a little bit of a twang in there. Is that right, or am I mishearing that?
Oh, you're probably catching all the different accents that I absorb here. So yeah, a bit of Flemish, bit of French, also from my Dutch wife, and then working with a whole lot of Brits as well. So.
So how long have you been in Belgium then?
11 years.
Okay, yeah. So it is rubbing off on you slightly. So my apologies for not picking up your strong Canadian accent, but picking up a slightly European one, which is very interesting.
Well, and then I also went to university in Windsor, which was actually directly south from Detroit. So I also ended up getting really influenced by Buffalo and Detroit accents as well in terms of the media there. So I have this American, Southern Ontario, Flemish, British, Irish, Dutch, everying in there.
Yeah, I had been to Windsor and to Detroit actually, so I know.
My condolences.
Yeah, we were just passing through as we were driving from Toronto to Chicago, so we stopped over off in Windsor for a night and then got stuck in the tunnel as we went into the States, and that was a very traumatic experience for my kids.
Yeah, it's true. But Old Tiger Stadium, it had such a charm to it. It was beautiful. We used to love going across there to catch some baseball games. And at that time, you could get tickets so easy to go see a Tigers game compared to back then the Dome was always packed. You could hardly get tickets. So It was actually better to be going to Detroit to catch the Jays.
Sure. Anyhow, well, welcome to the pod. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing. I'm now interested in the journey from Canada to Belgium because that has totally taken me sideways. So just give us a little bit of background about you and your life story, as it were.
So I am actually an Anglican priest. So I was already an Anglican priest in the Anglican Church of Canada for 8 years in Ontario. I was a lifelong Blue Jays fan. And then there came a job opportunity in Ghent in Belgium. Long story there. But yeah, I've never expected that a Anglican priest from Canada would ever get a job here. And technically, this is part of the diocese in Europe, which is part of the Church of England. And so I work for the Church of England, but in Belgium. And so been here 11 years. Absolutely love Belgium. Besides family and friends that I miss in Canada, the main thing I miss is the Blue Jays. And so it's, other than that, this is the perfect place to live. So I'm really glad to be able to follow my team from here.
Yeah, no, that is a very fascinating story. So I have some background in terms of growing up in the Church of England, so I understand your context quite well. So we'll have more conversations, I'm sure, on that at some other point. But so ending up in Belgium, had you been to Europe before? Was this a complete side right move for you? Had you sort of thought about it would be lovely to perhaps relocate someday? Or
So my wife is from a Dutch family. We met in Scotland, and then we actually lived in Hamilton, Ontario for 5 years. And then a job opportunity came up here. It meant we were a 4-hour drive away from her family, as her father's health was pretty bad at that stage, rather than a 7-hour plane ride. So that made a lot of sense. Plus, there was this great opportunity in Ghent. And we had visited here and absolutely fallen in love with the city. So it was just the stars aligning in the right way.
Yeah, amazing. And what is life like in terms of comparison to being in Canada? What are the big noticeables that are, just poles apart in terms of culture and so on? What have you noticed?
Well, when I talk to friends in Ontario, I always say it's not like comparing apples and oranges. It's apples and elephants. It's different species. It required relearning everything I thought about the work that I was doing, but also, yeah, culturally, people in Belgium, they do not live to work like in Ontario. I think Ontario are the worst workaholics in the world. At least now that I have that perspective from outside.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I mean, people here really like they work, but then they also want to play. So whether that's, of course, cycling is a huge sport here, football, but also people just in tons of culture. The city of Ghent is 250,000 people, which is probably half the size of Hamilton, where we were coming from. But the cultural opportunities, the food is incredible. And one of the things I love is also just diversity. So the number of languages that you hear around you is intoxicating.
Yeah. And chances to get back to Ontario? How often do you get back to see family and friends? Do much travel or not? I guess with the pandemic, it's obviously slowed up, but
yeah. And I've got friends from Canada, and they try and get back at least once or twice a year. They don't pay an Anglican priest that much money, so we can't really afford to do that. So we try to aim for every 3 years. Pandemic got in the way of that. But my family also love to come to Europe. So either they come to Belgium and they like to tour around here, or we try to meet up somewhere else. So that works out pretty well.
Very good. And do you come across the UK at all? Is that an opportunity that...
Back in the day, yes, we did. COVID got in the way of that. So yeah, I haven't been in the UK in over 2 years.
Okay. So
yeah, it'd be great to be part of a meetup at some point.
Yeah, I was going to say, let us know when you're sort of thinking of... Did you get across to the London series at all when that happened in 2019?
No.
Yeah, so it's because funny enough, there was a lot of European fans there. I think, it was a big magnet, wasn't it, in terms of getting people, to come and see baseball live. So yeah, we did have a lot of guys off the continental Europe coming across.
And then I think there's also 2 places in London that are like batting cages where people can come and just have a good time whacking the ball. And yeah, I really want to come try that out. That's actually the closest. I checked it on Google Maps to see, where is a batting cage?
Yeah.
There's nothing in France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany. So I want to come check it out. I would love to also and there's the entrepreneur in me that would love to have like a batting cage somewhere nearby.
Yeah, I would have thought, particularly with Germany, because Germany's quite passionate about their baseball. I would have thought they would have had one somewhere.
Well, and didn't the Netherlands win the baseball world championships a couple of years ago? They've got a lot of great players, especially from the Dutch Antilles.
Yeah, I'm surprised there isn't one. Yeah, so I think if you're coming to the UK, there's certainly one at the Westfield Shopping Centre, which is near the Olympic Stadium, where the London series was held. So that's a very popular place. And actually, where I'm in Bournemouth, we've got one in Southampton, which is just along the coast from us here. So there are a few around the UK. So yeah, if you're coming over, book it in.
We're doing it. Yeah, we're doing a meetup there.
Right. So let's just dip then into your sort of childhood and growing up. Did you play yourself? Was it a sport that in your childhood years that you fell in love with and played yourself?
Only with friends. Okay. I think my official title when I was a kid was King of the Band Geeks. So I was way too busy with music, theater, those sorts of things,
right?
That to actually be good at any sports. But baseball was always my biggest passion. Yeah. So I used to spend a lot of hours in the backyard just pitching a ball against the wall.
Yeah, very good. And your first experience with the Jays, how old were you? I'm assuming you want to ask a question, then think, actually, yeah. Give us your first sort of impression of or age you were when.
So I was 2.5 years old when Toronto was awarded a team in the league, and my earliest memory is probably 81, 82, when they were just horrible as an expansion team. They were losing upwards of 100 games a year. So yeah, I remember playing catch with my friends, and we would make jokingly, ha ha ha, we're like the Blue Jays, and we would throw the ball wide of each other, or we would catch the ball, but then we would drop it on purpose to, because they just were making errors constantly. That was a joke. And then I think it was around 83 where they started to be good, and we would make these errors, and we would, ha ha ha, we're the Blue Jays, and we'd be like, oh, but we can't do that anymore.
And that would have been Exhibition Stadium in terms of
Oh yeah,
your
yeah,
experience.
yeah.
So what was that like? Give us your well, I was going to say highs and lows of going to Exhibition Stadium. I'm not sure there's many highs from what I've heard of, but what was your memories of that ballpark?
Well, the great part about it was the seats were so cheap. So
Yes.
like families could go, and it was super affordable. You could buy tickets in the outfield for a while for, I think, $2. Then it got bumped up to $4. My mother is also an Anglican priest, and one time she got gifted some tickets that were right behind home plate, 17th row, but she only got 2 tickets. So my parents sat in the outfield with binoculars, and then my sister and I got to sit in those awesome seats. And we were, I don't know, 10 years old, and my sister might have been 7. And it was one of Dave Steve's one hitters. It was just, I mean, I was already a Blue Jays fan then, but then I was just smitten, especially if it's a really good pitching duel.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Gourmet food.
Very cool. And was it pitching that you particularly, in terms of, your heroes of the sport? Often, we all latch onto particular positions or players, and then positions, and because of that, was it pitching that you were always in awe of, or?
What I love the strategy in between the action. So
Sure.
especially for pitching and catching, it's the dynamic of, well, what did we just throw? How did the batter react? What are we going to do next? But then also to see the position players, how they're adjusting to, well, what pitch is going to be thrown. And yeah, I mean, also growing up, then it was defensive wizards like Tony Fernandez that were just amazing to watch, where he would go way back behind third base, throw this sidearm loop, and get the guy at first base. Just, I mean, it would, yeah, there's been some brilliant players on the Jays through the years. On one of the earlier podcasts, I heard you ask somebody, who's your favorite former Blue Jay or something like that. I thought, oh, don't ask me that, Steve. Don't ask.
Oh, that's coming. Yeah. We're teeing that one up right now. So start thinking about it. So Exhibition Stadium, obviously great childhood memories. What was the mood like when they started talking about Skydome being built? I presume that plan had been in place for some years, I guess, before it actually, physically started to happen.
That was also as the Jays were getting much better as a team. So that was mid 80s, 85. Obviously, they won the AL East pennant for the first time, and the hopes were really, really high. And by that point, there was momentum towards the new stadium. So when the stadium opened in 89, then and it was May, so it was kind of weird that it wasn't for the beginning of the season. But yeah, the expectations at that point were, we're gonna win the AL East this year. But of course, they started off with a really bad track record in 89. So it was kind of, everybody didn't know what was going to happen. And then when they were there, it really took off.
Yeah.
And it was sold out for years.
Yeah. And were you at the World Series games at all through the early 90s? Did you get to any of the postseason
I got
at all?
to when they played the Minnesota Twins in the 91 playoffs.
Okay.
Obviously, they lost that series, but it was absolutely electric in the building. I've never been to a game like that where 50,000 people are into every single pitch, totally focused on one thing, and there's just a constant buzz through the building. So yeah, I was at that game. The other is after they won the World Series in 92, then they had the parade through Toronto, and we might have missed our day of school that day with our parents' permission.
Yeah.
And so me and a group of friends, we went there, but the parade route was already packed with people, so we couldn't get anywhere. We thought, okay, let's try and get close to the dome. So we go down there, we're walking around the dome, and there were a pair of doors, but they only opened from the inside. There was no handles on the outside.
Okay. And
the door opens in front of me, and a guy walks out. And so I said to him, can we go in? He just shrugged his shoulders. So I bolted in there. I started going up the stairs, and my friends are behind me. Look back, and there's thousands of people coming up the stairs. It turns out that the dome was actually had too many people in it that day. But then there was nowhere to sit, so we were just sitting in the stairwell while they were having all the speeches and they were handing out everything. But you couldn't hear a thing. There, the players are talking. I don't know if anybody could understand what they were saying, but basically every time they said something, we would just go nuts. So it was phenomenal.
That's mad, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
those are those sort of memories that you haven't planned for. You're just there. Something suddenly happens, and wow.
Yeah, literally a door opens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in 93, when they won the World Series, so I was studying at University of Windsor, and just to see what it's like to be Canada's team. So Windsor, we ended up actually going across the bridge, the Ambassador Bridge that goes to Detroit. So we kind of shut down the border for a few hours, just celebrating. Because the whole city of Windsor was behind them as well.
Which is great to hear, because obviously with the Tigers being literally a stone's throw away, and I guess the mix in Windsor was always, particularly prior to the Jays being around, would have been a lot of Tiger fans in that,
especially when the Tigers were in the AL East as well.
Yeah, in that part of the world. So being in the mix of that, were there any? I'm just sort of thinking, were there any disgruntled Canadians who have been Tigers fans as kids that were now, oh right, okay, now it's our team and we feel we ought to show allegiance to the Canadian team? I wonder whether any of that sort of was going on.
I've got some good friends from the Windsor area, and they stayed loyal Detroit fans all the way through that. But they just, typical Canadians are very polite about it.
Yeah, it's hard to, once you've locked into your team, no matter what the circumstances are, it would be hard to suddenly switch.
And on that point as well, Detroit is this franchise with incredible history.
Sure.
And Toronto really didn't. Okay, we had one World Series win, but it was still really a young team. And so I think for a lot of people that were into sort of the history of baseball, the pastime, then the Tigers were still the go-to choice. I don't know about now. I think probably a lot of kids in Windsor maybe split allegiances. Parents are Tigers fans, kids might be Jays fans.
Yeah. And of course you had Montreal, I know, which is further away, but they'd been, of course, going much longer than the Jays.
Yeah, well, when the Jays won in 93, then Montreal had a great team in 94 before the strike happened. So the dream also was, well, maybe it could be a Toronto-Montreal World Series.
Yeah. Because my first visit to the Jays was in 94. So yeah, just so I missed the World Series. And I missed the strike by 4 days, literally 4 days after the first game I ever went to. The strike happened. So
so it's your fault.
My fault, I'm afraid. Yeah, one of those burdens you just have to bear.
Well, one of the good things about Montreal not having a team anymore is the Olympic Stadium was not a good baseball park.
No,
it was just way too cavernous, and even when there was a crowd, if they got energized, it just didn't ripple through the building like a lot of other stadiums do. Although I did catch a foul ball there.
Oh, well, that's all right. Yeah, it probably was a little bit like the London Stadium when the Yankees and the Red Sox came across, that, a big old dome, which meant you have lots of foul territory. And while they tried to bring some seats in to try and fill that gap, there was still acres of space.
Because that's a stadium designed for football games mostly.
Well, it was the stadium that's designed for the Olympic Games in 2012. So effectively, it was an athletics stadium to start off with, and then the idea of the legacy of the games was that it would always get converted across to a football stadium. And I think the West Ham supporters who go there have probably got used to it now, but I think certainly when they first moved from Upton Park, it's not a classic football ground just because it's an oval and it generates these massive spaces between the touchline and the fans, which is very odd for football.
Yeah.
So, World Series, you then, in terms of I'm just trying to think of your timeline. So, when did you come to Belgium? What year?
2011.
2011. Okay, so you were already over here prior to the 2015-16 seasons. How much were you able to keep up with what was happening there? I mean, you even worse than us here in the UK. You're an hour further ahead, so evening games are middle of the night. How much of that did you get to see live?
So, a lot of times what I would do is I'd be listening to it on the radio, on my phone. And so if it was an afternoon game, then I would love, especially if I was traveling somewhere, then I would be listening to it, which also took me back to my childhood. I would hide underneath my blankets and I would listen to baseball games. So that was also kind of nostalgic. But then, watching games, it's not always great. Although I'm also now as I'm getting older, I'm a big fan of when they have a West Coast game. I can wake up at 6 a.m. and then have breakfast and watch the Blue Jays.
Yes, because that works a bit better for you, doesn't it? Just being that hour ahead. I think if it's normally sort of a 2 o'clock start here, so it's a 5 o'clock, generally around 5 o'clock end. So it's not so hot here in the UK. But just picking up. Going to extra innings, then that's the bonus.
Yeah, and if they're playing in LA or Oakland or something like that, then usually when I wake up, it can be maybe the 5th or 6th inning, and I can catch the second half of the game, which is pretty good. Yeah. Sometimes the result is already decided by then, and I can say maybe not today.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2015. Did you stay up in the middle of the night to watch the backflip game? Were you did you join us?
Totally. Yep. I was up for all those playoff games. At that time, we also had an intern working with me, and he was also even living in our house. And so he was from the UK, and I also made him wear a Blue Jays jersey. He didn't stay up to watch the games, but and so I'd be awake in the middle of the night, and okay, I'm watching the games, tweeting away with people who were watching the games back in Canada, back and forth. And then also I was working. And so some of my colleagues, they would also be saying, Stephen, we should talk about your insomnia. No, this is not insomnia. This is like, if I'm going to be awake now, I need to sleep in later. So I need to adjust my work hours.
Yeah. So the 2015-16, obviously the momentum that the team had in terms of the hopes of going through, how disappointed were you with that, and how did that play into sort of your sleep patterns and so on? Because I think when you're on the crest of a wave, you start running with the team, don't you? And actually you can get through your day because you're excited about what was that whole period like for you, particularly being an extra hour later?
Yeah, you just live off adrenaline. I would have ridden that wave all the way to the end if I could. I was a Jays fan through all the dark years, right? Between 93 and 2015, there were a lot of bad teams there. There were a lot of good teams that just didn't, go anywhere. There are some of the seasons where you see the Jays win 88, 89 games and they finished 4th in the division. But then 2015, when they picked up Price and also Tulowitzki, and just the second half of that season when they ran the table, you could feel it, and it was never in doubt. So when they win the division and they're going to the playoffs, and there were some tense moments, but it was great. And then when you've got that 7th inning, and all the craziness that happened with that, and the ball that Russell Martin threw off the bat, like it was just insane stuff that you never see in a baseball game. And your body fills with adrenaline. You're screaming at the television. It's 2:30 in the morning. Then they end up winning the game, and that's amazing. Okay, so they lost the game, the next series, but it feeds your addiction, so you want more. And so then in 2016, when they also did well, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going through this again. I don't care if I lose sleep for 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
flags fly forever.
Of course, absolutely they do. And of course, it's now fed into where we are in terms of the current team. How much do you keep an eye on minor league action in terms of who's coming up through the rosters, in terms of how that might impact? Because obviously, we've got the Vladdy Bo and Biggio trio, which famously have come through Buffalo and so on. How much do you keep a track on what's happening in the lower leagues and thinking,
Yeah.
actually, in 2 or 3 years' time, this could be very good.
Yeah, and yeah, full disclosure, it was really with Biggio, Bo, and Vladdy where that was the first time where I ever actually like flagged the websites for, New Hampshire Fisher Cats, and
Yeah.
and we're following them from Double A. I'm like, who's this Bichette kid? Wow, he can hit.
Yeah.
And they've got Guerrero too. Whoa. So but before that, I would always kind of, you would know the top prospects. You might know the top 20 or 30, but they were the first ones where you start to track them and you see their arrival times.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I really like the way the front office right now is dealing with prospects where they invest in them. And it's not just if they're going to become great Blue Jays, but also how they can use that to pick up great players like Barrios. Then there is a value to investing in players, whether you envision them on your team or not.
Yeah, no, exactly. So into 2020, which was our pandemic year, shortened season. These guys are starting to push into the team for the first time, along with, I think Nate Pearson came through in that particular year as well.
Right at the end, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement about him coming up. What was your thoughts towards how good this team could be in the near future and versus something sort of 4 or 5 years down the road? Because the trouble with fans, if you're like me, is that we just get on the bandwagon and away we go. This is the team. They're going to do it next year, and it's actually having that sort of slightly restricted momentum to make sure that they all are peaking at the right time. So coming into 2020, where was your anticipation of how well they could do?
Going into 2020, once they were able to start training again and that they were going to head towards playing games, you knew this was going to be a good team. You just didn't know really how good. And because it was a sprint, what I anticipated was this would actually play to their strengths as a young team. They could sprint better than teams that were chock full of veterans who have a hard time kind of getting back up to speed again. Yeah. So did I expect them to get a playoff spot? Not really, but that was a good hope. And 2019 had been the developmental season.
Yeah.
And so hopefully then 2020 was going to be a bit better. And what a great opportunity for these young kids to really get a taste of doing that kind of push. But a lot of these still young players, they've got such maturity in those high pressure situations. They expect themselves to win, which is also really cool to see. So either way, it was going to be another learning season. And in the end, they just didn't have the pitching. I think we knew that at the time. I mean, we had just picked up Ryu, but we didn't have the pitching rotation to really go deep into a playoff series. So also kind of a little bit of reality had to play into that. But you kind of saw the building blocks were in place, and playoff experience can never be a bad thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. And in 2020 and 2021, there was that taste of playoff. But they didn't get, particularly last year, they didn't get there all the way. How was your thoughts on the final day of last season, where 2 or 3 teams were in the running at the end of the season? Were you thrilled that they'd got that far, or was it a sense of disappointment or excitement for the following season? Where were you landing?
Totally excited.
Right.
This team was showing over a long haul, over a full season. That's how good they are. And to finish one game out of it with the stacked AL East with Tampa Bay, New York, Boston, they're with the big boys. So this is a good team. We got to get behind them now. And you see the start of the 2022 season, people are saying, oh, they're not firing on all cylinders. Yeah, but they're the first team in the AL to get to 10 wins. If you look at the April record of the Jays over the past few years, they usually don't do well in the first month of the season.
That's right.
They're doing well. So I think there's a lot of positive signs going on right now.
Yeah, I think you're right that this current squad in how they're performing thus far haven't hit top top formed just yet, but they are winning games, and they're winning close games. And I think last year, particularly, we lost a lot of one-run games, where this year we just seem to be scraping them.
Cito Gaston used to have a theory about that he always thought that if in one season you end up losing a lot of one-run games, in the next season you kind of, it balances out. And yeah, you kind of see that happening. But also to kind of speak to what you're saying there, for young players, a lot of them have really good baseball IQ, that they know this is a long season. So yeah, they want to win the tough games now, but they also know there are going to be stretches where the offense just goes nuts. Where all the players click at the right time, and they're just going to ride that.
Yeah.
But if they can grind this first month out, then the good times are still ahead.
Yeah, still cold in Canada, of course, and I think once we get the roof open, get a bit of warmth going as well. Actually, summer sport, I think these guys will really roll. You like the signings that they've made, the trades that they've made in the off season. So I think particularly Gosman pitched incredibly well the other night.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I have to admit, I wasn't fully okay. What's the appeal of this Gosman guy? Just looking at his stats from afar, it's like, okay, he's a decent pitcher, but I don't know if I'd be signing him up to that kind of contract. But just to watch him pitch that game in Fenway, he was dealing. I totally understand why Montoya had to pull him in the 9th inning. No problem with that decision at all. But Gosman just seemed like he could throw anything up there, and it was just with perfect ease. He was in control. Yeah.
Would you have put him out for the 9th?
I would do exactly what Montoya did. You put him out there. I mean, not just one pitch, but you give him a chance at as long as nothing goes wrong, no walks, no hits, it's your game to finish. First guy got a hit on the first pitch. Okay, we're going to Romano. Romano is, seals the deal every time right now. So
yeah,
with a bit of drama.
Yeah, there was a little bit of drama. That's absolutely right. I wonder whether they had a conversation with him and give him a little bit of okay, this is the leash that you are being let out on. It's going to be a short one, and if the situation changes, then we will have to pull you. I am sure he must know that.
Yeah. I know the Blue Jays are very different than the softball team I play in Ghent here, the Ghent Knights. But yesterday we won our first ever softball tournament.
Hey, that's cool.
Yeah. But the other teams that were there in this tournament, they had these amazing hitters who were like pounding the ball, home runs deep into the field. Except those were the only players really hitting the home runs. And the way we won the tournament was we just played really well as a team on defense and offense for every game, 5 games over the course of the day. And what I end up seeing from the Jays is they've got some superstar players, but they're just really good at playing as a team. And actually the Gosman game is a really good example. He was dealing, and the other guys surround him so that Montoya can't go and tell him, you're not going back out for the night. So actually as a team, they're doing things that, I mean, that's more than just how many home runs do you hit? So it's that's part of the vibe that's part of this team that I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, I think it's falling over from the last couple of seasons, isn't it? I think that we've talked on this pod about the home run jacket and the essence of camaraderie that is bringing to everybody. And it was great the other night where Espy got his home run as soon as he's got to take it off. Zimmer came through, and it's so exciting. It's just like one after another.
Well, and a good team doesn't just wait for the big guys to hit the home runs. It's the role players who also have a part to play in that. And when I think back to the late 90s, early 2000s, you had superstars, right? Like Halladay pitching, but the team around him wasn't good enough, so he never actually got to make the playoffs with the Jays. Or Carlos Delgado. I mean, his numbers are mind-boggling. But also the team around him just wasn't good enough. And now what you see is really good players, some superstars, and the role players are also good. So, the front office has also talked about how you not only have a high ceiling, but you also try to raise the floor. And I think that's what really excites me about this team as well, is that the floor has gone up quite a bit. Somebody was comparing the starting rotation on opening day this year compared to last year. It's just night and day.
It is night and day, and I think when I spoke to Shai Davidi, I asked him, is it, the best starting rotation in the AL East? And he wouldn't commit to say totally yes, but he said it would be hard to argue against it. And I think if we can get Ryu doing what Ryu should be able to do, and I know that, his years are coming towards a close, but if they can just sort out some of his issues, and he actually, when he was pitching, while he had 2 rough games, there were elements of his games that were very, very good. Yeah, he had like 2 or 3 really good innings, and then on the 4th inning, it just all went south. So I think if Pete Walker can do his magic with Ryu, obviously getting him back off the IL and back into the rotation, and if they keep the 6-man rotation with Ross Stripling as well, who pitched very well yesterday, 2 days ago.
Well, and if you look at Ryu's numbers from last year, end of last year, and also the beginning of this year, those are outliers compared to his career numbers.
Totally.
It's totally a matter of control with him. So if he's able to find that control point again, less than his velocity, I think he'll be an amazing 5th starter. If you can say that Hyun-Jin Ryu is your 5th starter, that's a good rotation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In terms of Matt Chapman, how excited are you having him on the team?
He's phenomenal. Again, he's one of these players where I didn't know much about him. His offense is totally a bonus. His glove and his arm from third, it's a cannon, but it's also so accurate. Even Donaldson, Donaldson had great defense in the 2015-2016 season. But Chapman is just phenomenal. Yeah.
And what he will do to Bo, improving Bo at short, I think that's the big thing for me, is that he covers the ground so effectively and so dominantly that is taking yards off the ground that Bo has to cover at shortstop. And I know both of them have had a couple of wobbles in some of the games, to be fair. It hasn't been absolutely perfect, but man, it's so much stronger than it was last year. So much stronger.
And with being strong, third base, short, our second base defense also, nothing against Simeon, but actually I think Santiago is a really good defender. And let's give Vladdy some credit. He's a really good first baseman. Maybe he's not going to win a Gold Glove this year, but he does some amazing plays there. His stretches are fantastic. That defense also saves pitchers. That saves bullpens. So all of that is, the end of the play in yesterday's game where Vladdy goes up, catches a ball, and then steps on first for the double play to end the game. Great play, and that saves the game for Romano, right?
Yeah, absolutely does, because he was getting himself in a bit of a pickle for the second game, but he got through it, and that's all you can ask of.
Sorry, Simba.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Romano yesterday, was it?
Yeah,
no,
Simba.
It was Simba. Yes, sorry. Yeah, the day before, Romano got himself in a bit of a sticky position and got himself through. And I think that's all you can ask of a top player, is you negotiate those wobbles, and he's done that. And I thought the way that Monteo played the game yesterday in terms of saving Romano having to come back out, I thought that was a good sign to see. He's got confidence in his bullpen, which we didn't really have last year.
That's very true. Well, especially early in the season, and then they improved the bullpen over the course of the season. But it was the early season bullpen wobbles that and that's why you see a lot of fans panicking right now. If the Jays lose a game, it's like, oh, they missed the playoffs by one game. This could be that game.
Yeah,
let's calm down, everybody. And that's a good thing about a manager like Montoya is he's got the long-term patience for the whole season.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. So let's just get you on paper, as it were. Where do you think we're going to end up in the AL East?
I wouldn't be surprised if we finished first. I would be disappointed if we didn't make the playoffs at all, including with a wild card position. I think we have to have those kind of expectations this season with this team. If we end up in a wild card series, I think we have at least 2 series in us.
Yeah. And
depending on what the front office does by the trade deadline, then we could raise those expectations further. So
it's an exciting prospect, isn't it? I think everybody I speak to, is saying second is an absolute minimum.
Yeah. And growing up in the Toronto sports market, then basically the culture is set by the Leafs, and all Leafs fans are ready to jump off the bandwagon rather than get on it, because at some point the Leafs are going to break your heart. And I think Jays fans also sometimes tend to buy into that culture. And what I find about this year is it's really easy to be excited. And I don't know why anybody would want to jump off this bandwagon. I think we have to keep pushing this team, because this could be multiple years of playoff appearances and hopefully championships.
Bring it on. Liking that enthusiasm, Stephen. That's very good.
Yeah, I've kind of committed. I'd like to get I'd like to get the Jays logo tattooed on my back, and then each year that they win the World Series. So I'm hoping that one of these years I'll get to add on.
Send us the photo when you have it done.
Okay.
Yeah, very good. That's excellent. I like that commitment. Been brilliant chatting with you. What we're going to do, as I've done with my other guests, is our top 10 questions. So yeah, nothing to get too excited about or nervous about. Who are you most excited? Which player are you most excited about for 2022? Kick off with that.
You're going to have to edit out this long pause, aren't you?
No. Well, there's a lot of deliberation going on at the moment.
Going through the whole lineup. Well, if you'd asked me that at the beginning of the season, I would have said Danny Jansen.
That's a good shout. Yeah.
He seemed to have been putting everything back together again. I think we've got a team full of stars. I'm hopeful of seeing what George Springer can do over a full season.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a good shout. And it was we said right at the very beginning of the season, obviously last year he was out for so long. And then of course got hit by a ball the other day, didn't he? And it's just, oh goodness, not again. But hopefully, he's playing last night. So yeah, I think a fully fit George Springer for a whole season, yeah, that's got to be a good shout. Yeah, like that one. Okay, here's the question you didn't want. Your favorite Jays player of all time. Where would you land?
Okay, if you're going to make me pick one, I think I have to go with Carlos Delgado.
Okay.
He could just take over a whole game on his own. And Carlos Delgado in his prime, I don't understand why that guy's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
If I'm allowed to have a backup, then I go Tony Fernandez.
Yeah, that's another good shout.
Just a defensive wizard. If he's playing at the same time as Ozzie Smith, so he gets sort of underappreciated. But Tony could do things at shortstop that no human should do. Good
choices there. Who's your favorite or person that you've been most impressed that isn't a Jays player? Who would you, over the years, think, he would have been a great person to have on the roster?
You mean everybody doesn't end up on the Blue Jays at some point?
Well, they all roll through at some point, I'm sure.
Albert Pujols.
Yes.
Big fan.
Yes. Yeah. Can't argue with that one. Your favorite ballpark?
Am I allowed to have a second for that one as well? Because I do have I mean, it would have been great to see Joey Votto in a Blue Jays uniform.
Yeah.
Maybe it can still happen.
Oh, you never know. There's a few out there at the moment that people are talking about that haven't come our way just yet. So let's see what the front office do, as you say, before the trade deadline. Your favorite ballpark away from Skydome?
So far, it would have to be Fenway, but I haven't really checked out enough MLB parks.
Okay.
But Fenway is a cathedral of a stadium.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's a great place. Yeah. No, I enjoyed visiting Fenway. Okay, so when you're at the game, your favorite baseball food?
Oh, definitely popcorn.
Oh, right. Okay.
Hands down.
Oh, that was very quick. Yeah, that was like, I'm not even thinking about that one.
Oh, yeah. I know which inning to order it in, and
Okay, there's a routine there. And what would your drink be with your popcorn?
Usually just iced tea.
Okay, very
that
nice.
Sweet North American iced tea.
Yeah, very good. Day game or night game?
Night game.
Under the lights.
Yep.
Summer's evening, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. Your favorite Jays jersey color?
The 1980s white home unis.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, very specific.
Well, because they also had the 3 color stripes on the side
Yes,
bands
they
and
did.
also at the waist.
Yeah. Very nice. Excellent. Bit retro. And what number would you have on your jersey?
9.
Okay. 9.
John Olerud.
Ah, right. Okay. Yes. It's always when it gets to this point, people give numbers, and I'm racking my brain just trying to think who it might be that has caused that number to be chosen. Okay, John O'Rourke. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I run about as fast as he does, so
Excellent.
which is not at all.
And roof open or roof closed?
Oh,
Which is, of
roof
course,
open.
yeah.
Yeah.
Post exhibition stadium question.
Although could I also say it's great when the dome closes mid game.
All right. Okay, go on.
Well, it's just it's this technological marvel when you're sitting there and
sure.
It you see the sky open up or close off.
Yeah. When I went on my first visit in '94, we went to the Hard Rock Cafe, which is now where the WestJet flight deck bit is. And we were sitting in the restaurant there, and my friends were sort of talking about the Jays and trying to sort of enthuse me in terms of what I was going to see later in the day when we went to the game. And as I was sitting in there, and they were doing a bit of batting practice and stuff, and the dome started to open. And that's the only time in all the times I've been to see the Jays play that I've actually seen the roof move in the stadium. And it was amazing because it was quite dark because they didn't have all the stadium lights on as they were doing the batting practice. And then this little crack in the roof opens and this shaft of light comes shining. I remember ever so clearly. It's an amazing feat, these stadiums that have.
And I think it was either the first or the second to have a retractable roof. So, I mean, when you think about the engineering feat of figuring out how do you do this, and now, of course, lots of stadiums have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they would do it differently for sure now, but it's an engineering marvel.
And I think it's uniquely different to how other roofs open. The rotation of one section through that sort of whole 180 degrees and the other bit sliding. I mean, it's just mesmerizing watching it. It's fascinating stuff.
Well, and you can't, some other ones where they have it pulled down or something like that, well, you can't do that in the middle of Toronto and next to the CN Tower. So in terms of the urban planning, it's a really genius idea of how you combine the CN Tower and Sky Dome Rogers Centre. Yeah.
Are you pleased that they're not moving from Sky Dome? Is that because it was, a couple of years ago, they were talking about maybe they relocate down to the waterfront. Are you pleased that they're staying where they are?
I think they could move if there's the right opportunity that comes along, and if they're able to build the right stadium. Because of the way that then Sky Dome was conceived as multi-purpose, that's also very much 1980s thinking. And if they were to have a baseball dedicated ballpark, they should do that.
Yeah, I think there is talk. I read that they're looking to do the 100 level seats because at the moment they sort of face into the middle of the ballpark rather than towards home plate. And I think they've got some plans to reorientate all of those seats, which I think would make it a much better baseball experience. And they don't need to do the retractability anymore because the Argonauts aren't playing there anymore, so there's no need to have that section moving. So I guess they'll probably whip all of that out and redesign it and put it all back together again, which will be fun to see.
Yeah. Well, and then when you see the pictures of the Raptors when they used to play in the building too, it's just insane that ever hosted NBA games.
It's just mad. Anyway, it's great stuff. It's great things to dream about. Lots of exciting prospects in terms of what's happening in terms of the team, what's happening in terms of the ballpark. So good to have that to look forward to. I know we've had a few problems with our internet, Stephen. I appreciate that you've fought through. So thank you so much for that. Been brilliant having you on as well. Loved chatting with you. Thank you so much for spending some time. Guys, thank you for joining us again today. Being such a cool time spending the morning with Stephen. If you'd like to come on and just come and tell us your J story, it'd be lovely to hear from you. Please get in touch by the normal means. If you have opportunity on Mondays, come and join us for our live show, 5 o'clock Eastern time, 10 o'clock here in the UK, live on YouTube, live on Twitter. Come and hear us chatting about the week in Blue Jays. Looking forward to the next series. Be great to see you then. Otherwise, have a great week and we'll see you soon.
The Red, White, and Blue Jays podcast is a production of Blue Jays Fans UK. If you've got a Blue Jays story to share, let us know. Email us at bluejaysfansuk@gmail.com. And follow along on Twitter and Instagram at Blue Jays Fans UK. I'm your announcer, Jim Langton. Thanks for listening.